Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. This is the show where we talk about Boston sports. We talk about the Boston Celtics, Boston Bruins, Boston Red Sox, and the New England Patriots. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Frank, and also here with my man Steve, who goes by Negative Ned when he's feeling like
I'm
Steve, how you doing?
good, Frank. How you doing?
All right, so we're going to get ready to jump into the show. There's a couple of things that are jumping off this week that we wanted to dive into, and starting out first, we're going to start out with the Patriots first because at the end of the day, the Patriots as a hot topic on sports talk radio. They're the hot topic that everybody's talking about. They're just, New England Patriots are the hot topic. But Steve, let's give me your thought process right real fast on the Patriots trying to find an offensive coordinator and the Patriots also trying to find well, they now eventually did find a special teams coordinator. And give me your thoughts on that, and then I'll tell you everybody what's going on and what my thoughts are because I have I'm all over the place on this. You know what I mean? What's going on? And let's not forget either that if you're paying attention, you're going to understand what we're saying. But if you're not, let me just tell you real briefly for you, those of you watching, the Patriots are having a hard time trying to get an offensive coordinator to come in here. And people are talking about Josh McDaniel coming back in town. And I'm going to put my flag down right now and say that's one thing I do not want. And I don't want Josh
That's my
McDaniel.
prediction from last week, Frank.
Yeah, it is. That's
Could
your
still
prediction.
happen.
Yeah, I think honestly, the way I keep hearing, but I think it might happen. Steve? What's your take on all the stuff that's going on right now with all the talk and the Patriots having so many interviews trying to get an offensive coordinator?
I think it's a bad sign that people don't want to come here. This is almost like the Red Sox GM job. Nobody wanted it. They interviewed 10 people, turned it down. It's the same, almost the same thing. All these young offensive coordinator guys that are getting hired from everywhere, you know, they don't. Frank, there's no tools here for these guys to work with. They're looking at, okay, who's the quarterback going to be? I don't know. Who's the tight end? I don't know. Hunter Henry's a free agent. Okay, who do I have to set up on the line? I don't know. Can I hire my own coaches? I don't know. Like, and I'm just being a little facetious with it, but I mean, I can't even imagine the questions these guys are asking when they come into the building and realize that, you know, if Mac Jones is part of the equation and he's still going to be here, maybe they don't want any part of that. And we don't know that, but I'm just guessing. Like,
Steve, do you think that's what it is? Do you think that the Patriots are telling these guys when they're interviewing them that Mac Jones is still going to be here and that's why they're turning it down? Do you think
I
that
think
makes
that
sense?
one of the questions is, what's the plan for the number 3 pick? Are you guys going to take a QB or are you going to take a wide receiver? What's the offense? What scheme are we going to be running? Are we going to the West Coast, or are we staying with the old, Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady and whatnot we've seen for the last few years with Mac Jones? So the questions have to be what scheme they're going to run and who the heck are they going to have? What kind of weapons and tools are they going to have to work with when they get here? I
Yeah.
think that's part of the problem.
You know what I've been hearing too? I've been hearing a lot of people have been suggesting that it's something I said almost a month ago, maybe longer than that, is the Patriots should trade for literally Justin Fields and then draft Marvin Harrison. I read an article late last night, early this morning about Marvin Harrison, about how he is such a dynamic player. He's like the person in the article compared him to what's the wide receiver from the Cardinals? Oh my
Larry
goodness,
Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald. He was compared to a Larry Fitzgerald type of
Okay.
player, and the Patriots, because there's so many QBs, there's so many QBs in this year's draft. The writer for Sports Illustrated was suggesting that the Patriots should, draft, this Marvin Harrison Jr. kid because there's not that many wide receivers, and draft him and then circle back and then get a QB. And you know what, Steve? I was literally saying the same thing. I was saying, listen, let's get this wide receiver kid. Let's make a trade. Let's do make a trade and get a Justin Field or pick a QB later on down. But you can't, Steve. You know how many years we've missed on wide receivers. We whiffed on Debo Samuels. We whiffed on DK Metcalf. We whiffed on Lamar Jackson. And I'm forgetting another wide receiver. We just whiffed on all, but now we have the number third overall pick in the draft. Has your stance changed on what they should do, or are you still sticking with, you know what? Let's get a QB. What's your stance now?
My stance is let's get a QB, and I'll tell you why. After watching Zay Flowers over the weekend with the stupid taunting penalty,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want. And maybe he's not a diva, but I don't want diva receivers.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are all about themselves. They have to make it about themselves. They take stupid penalties. They want the ball. I want the ball. I want the ball. Get me a Julian Edelman. Get me Jacoby Myers. Get me a guy that's just gonna do what we need, make plays, and it's not a swollen head. Stephon Diggs right now is possibly a malcontent in Buffalo. I understand we need playmakers, and trust me, I'm part of me really wants them to take wide receiver because they don't have that threat. All the other teams have a QB and a wide receiver, a QB and a wide receiver. But the diva wide receivers are killing me. And that guy, Zay Flowers could have been the MVP of the game. He fumbles the ball going into the end zone. Then he gets the ball again, has the ball at the 9-yard line, gets a 15-yard penalty. He could have had 2 touchdowns and been the game's MVP. Yeah. Now, I have 2 schools of thought. Is A, get the quarterback, because first you have to get the offensive coordinator. He has to be part of the discussion so that they can get, whether it's Drake May or whoever the hell it is they're going to get, and get the QB and then get the rest of the tools around them. Or worst case scenario, trade back, get me a left tackle, and then get the QB later and then get wide receivers later. I actually don't like that plan. I really do want them to use the number 3 pick to take a quarterback at this point. Okay. And I want them to sign I'm getting ahead a little bit, but I want them to sign a good left tackle. No more, don't get me Riley Reef, 34 years old on his last legs, with the oxygen tank. Get me a good left tackle. That shows you're going to build the line. You can't keep Michael Onwenu on right tackle for $15 million a year if that's what he wants. You have to protect the blind side. And I agree with you. I did hear something earlier about trading for Fields. And so it's intriguing to me that the former Chicago Bears offensive coordinator came in or is coming in for an interview. And I would say, if there was a way for them to get him to be the OC and then trade for Fields, he's worked with them at the end of the year. He was better. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. And if they get Fields, they don't have to take a QB. Then you can get the wide receiver. I'm torn on it because the diva factor for the wide receivers is killing me. It's killing me.
Well, let me be the negative Ned for about 5 seconds here.
Go ahead. I have a whole show's with the negative Ned. You're allowed 5 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, let me just be the negative Ned for 5 seconds for this and say, with the quarterback, you never know what you're going to get. Brock Purdy was the last pick of the draft, the entire draft, and look what he's doing with San Francisco. You know what I mean? But San Francisco wouldn't be where they are without several special players. You know what I mean? They just wouldn't be. And at the end of the day,
but they got all those special players first, and then got the QB, and they've had plug and play QBs. Jimmy Garoppolo,
that's where I was going with this.
Purdy and whoever.
But you got to have the special players. The special players is what makes it. You know what I mean? And I've said this several times. The quarterback on San Francisco, Brock Purdy's not that spectacular, but he just
fits their system.
Right. He fits their system. He's accurate. He can throw the ball downhill and everything else. And then he can scramble when he has to and everything else. But here's a question for you, Steve. If you put Brock Purdy on the Patriots, how many wins do you think they would have had this last season?
4.
You see, so that's my point. And when Mac Jones ultimately gets to San Francisco, because he's ultimately going to, when he gets to San Francisco, you know how many wins he's going to probably have with Mac Jones? Nah, Mac Jones is going to probably get them probably to the
10 or 12 because he'll fit the system.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm going with this. I think that the system fits the quarterback in San Francisco a lot better, but it's the players that make it. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, I've always said this though. I'm saying that you got to get the special players around. You can have an average quarterback, but you got to have special players. These players got to be playmakers. That's what you got to have. And
so I agree with you. They have Deebo Samuel, Kittle, Ayuk, and then they added McCaffrey last year, and I was like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
And then you have again Brock Purdy, Garoppolo, whoever. Who's the kid that played after Garoppolo? I forget his name. There was a guy in between there, not Trey Lance. There was another guy. Never mind. Whatever. I agree with you. Look, the Patriots have been devoid of like receivers for a while.
Right.
I mean, like Randy Moss type receiver. I mean, the Welkers and the Edelmans were here, but they need what's the kid's name in Dallas? Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
They need a guy like that. They need a guy like
Yeah,
Tebow,
and Steve,
Metcalf, all those guys you named.
He's on the board. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mark my words, he will be better than CeeDee Lamb. He will be better than probably most of the wide receivers in the league right now. And he will be on the board when the Patriots get it. But also, you don't know what you're getting with the quarterbacks that are on the board either. You don't know if these guys are going to be like that Jaden Daniels kid. You don't know, is Jaden McDaniels, whatever his name is. You don't know if this kid is going to be the next coming of Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Or you don't know if he's going to be like a Trey Lance, or you know what I mean? Or even worse than that. You don't know what you're getting. So
we were talking about the free agent quarterbacks. What do you think about Baker Mayfield?
Well, if I was, like I said to you last week, if it was me, I'd go after Jacoby Brissett because he's been here before. He's familiar with us, familiar with the system and everything else. I would go after him first before.
Only if Josh McDaniels comes, though. If the guy from Chicago comes, then you can't really. Well, you can have him, but
no,
Mayfield might be a better fit.
He might be a better fit for a certain type of offensive coordinator. But I would still, no matter what system it is, I would get Jacoby Brissett because the quarterback that you're going to draft after that, he would be the perfect person to sit back and learn from on that, as because you want the quarterback room to be talking about running. Once you look get your first two reads, you run, you take off and run. You know what I mean? Baker Mayfield runs also, but he's not really known for that. You know what I mean? He's not the guy. He's going to throw it in the back pocket and he's going to take a lot of chances. And I don't even think they're going to have a shot at Baker Mayfield, to be honest with you. He's going to stay with
Tampa. Yeah,
he's going to stay with Tampa. He loves what's going on with Tampa. He's going to stay with them, and I think that's what he's going to do.
So I have a question for you. Do you like the choices that they've made so far for defensive coordinator and special teams?
Yes, I do.
I agree.
Yeah, I do. Because you know what it does? It does right there. It's changing the entire situation, what's going on, and it's telling everybody that this is what's happening right now. We're moving forward with this whole system. We're going to do what we got to do, but the system is going to change. I like it, honestly. I mean, I absolutely.
I like it because Covington has done a real good job.
Yes,
and he's part of the group of what they had the last few years that have the cohesiveness, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So you keep some cohesiveness by promoting him and giving the title. I mean, the titles are important, as we're finding out. And I also just want to touch on the special teams coach, not to spend a lot of time on it, but he was on the Rams as the assistant special teams coach the last 2 years, and he's been credited with strong work developing kicker Matt Gay and punter Riley Dixon. And also in the college ranks in 2017, the team he was on led the nation in block kicks and punts. So look, how many block punts do we have to watch here? I've seen enough. You know what I mean?
right.
Over the last probably 2 years with Cam McCord and Joe Judge here. Time for them to move on, and let's get another guy in here that can hopefully improve that group, because the special teams, for what Belichick touts as all three phases of the game, that phase of the game the last few years has been really, really bad.
Steve, I'm getting the sneaky feeling that the Patriots are going to be pretty good. I'm getting a sneaky feeling from what I'm seeing, and I know that's
they're going to be lucky to win 6 games, Frank, next year.
Yeah,
I'm calling it right now.
Okay, I'm
they're
gonna call
be
it
lucky
right
to win
now.
6 games.
I'm gonna call it right now. I'm getting a sneaky feeling by the way they're picking and the way the players are talking about it and their way things are happening right now. I'm getting a sneaky feeling. I think the Patriots are going to win 10 games next year. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win 10 games. You put it down. You write it down.
I'm going to have to mark this because we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. They're rebuilding from the ground up, and like I tell
really
people,
not. But they're really not.
Listen, yes, they are, and I'll say this: when you start with the foundation, not the roof. Everybody's trying to put the roof on first and put the finishing touches. You can't do that. You got to build the foundation. Their offensive line is a mess. Again, not enough talent, and no matter what salary cap room they have, we have to see how they spend it and who they spend it on. The Nelson Aguilars and the Jonnu Smiths, like if they do that again, we're dead.
Yeah, you're going on record for that. This is what I'm going to go on record for. I agree with you. You got to start build this from scratch. But the problem, shouldn't say problem. The thing is with the Patriots right now, their defensive side of the ball and everything else is close to perfect as you're going to get. If they were starting out like Detroit was a couple of years ago with not a horrible defense and offense, I'd agree with you. But they just have to focus on the offensive side of the ball, and they have money to spend. So, and they have a potential great coach who's going to get the ear of all the players. And you see how when the coach has the ear of all the players because he was a player also. Look at Oakland. Look what's going on in Houston. I mean, just go look what happened in Detroit. These guys are playing, and they know how to talk to these kids. I don't think we're looking at a 3-win season or 4-win season. I think we're going to do better than that, honestly. And the team that's scared, it's going to be funny. It's going to make you laugh. The team that's scaring me next year, right now, out of the AFC, is going to be the Jets. That's the team that's scaring me.
With a healthy Aaron Rodgers, if he's 100%.
With the healthy Aaron Rodgers,
they will be scary.
Healthy Aaron Rodgers, they're going to get a wide receiver, right? They're definitely going to get a wide receiver, and they're going to draft another wide receiver already with the wide receiver they already have. They're going to be the team that everybody's going to be saying, wow, where'd they come from? Because their team is as close to perfect as you could get. What are they missing? They're missing one wide receiver and obviously a quarterback. You know what I mean? Their defense is playing lights out. That's the team. Meanwhile, Buffalo is getting worse. You know what I mean? Cincinnati's, you don't know what you're going to get with Cincinnati, and T. Higgins might not return. A couple of players might not return. The offensive coordinator might, like, their team hit their peak already. Buffalo hit their peak already. It's going the opposite direction. They're getting, they got pressure now. People getting fired. So new teams are going to, you know how this goes. Every couple of years, some teams go up in the rise, and some teams that are hot start to fall down. Kansas City is going to start turning around the corner because what's his name? Kelsey's going to retire. You know what I mean? And once
he's not going to retire yet. He'll still play after this year, I think. They win the Super Bowl. He's going to retire.
Yes, I think he's going to retire. Yes, I think so. Because he has a lot of back issues, he has a lot of knee issues, and he's loving the limelight, celebrityism of people following him and everything else, and he's absolutely loving that. With the Taylor Swift thing, he's loving that. So I think he's going to go out, and then let's not also forget this: Andy Reid. All the articles are saying Andy Reid's going to retire too. So things are going to change in Kansas City. You know what I mean? And then we'll see how much one quarterback can carry a team all by himself. You know what I mean? But anyway, we're looking at the time, and time is moving.
Okay.
Time is moving. You think I'm tripping, right? And I told you I'm be negative net today for 5 seconds. Hey.
Well, yours wasn't as bad as mine. I mean, I think they're only going to win. Maybe they're going to be lucky to win 6 games. I think they're going to be in last place again next year. They have to give Gerard Mayo a few years to rebuild this.
Yeah, they definitely have to give him that. But I
don't see 10 wins next year. I think that's way too optimistic given who they have to.
Yeah,
who they're playing and how they. Well, let's. We have plenty of time. Free agency hasn't hit yet. The draft hasn't hit. And so in June or July, when training camp starts, we'll have a whole new chance to.
And let's not forget either, the Patriots this past year had one of the hardest schedules they've had in years. And next year, they have one of the easiest they've had in years. So let's see what happens. I mean, let's put it all together. Let's see what happens. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Celtics, because the Celtics, they're kind of on a roll. They beat Miami, which is a great game. I watched that. I happened to miss the Clippers game. I saw it on replay. And I couldn't believe they missed everything. They couldn't throw the ball in the ocean.
I think I watched the first half and I had to shut it off. I was getting too frustrated with all the threes they were missing.
Then they ended up beating New Orleans, and then they ended up beating Indiana.
And I saw the second half of the New Orleans game. That was really good. And I saw most of the Indiana game last night.
Now, let me talk to you guys out there right now. If you guys are watching at home, I said several months ago when the Celtics were on getting things in a roll, this is what I said. I said, out the gate, as soon as the Celtics start learning how to shoot it on the outside and start driving the basket, the team is going to be a completely different team. And lo and behold, right at the All-Star break, what are the Celtics doing? They're driving to the basket and they're kicking the ball out to the shooters, because now they have utmost confidence in Derek White or whoever's on the perimeter when Tatum and Brown are driving to the basket. I'm absolutely loving the way they're playing. And the only thing that can stop them is themselves. You know what I mean? The games that they lost is because they were ice cold. There was a game that I saw them with Milwaukee a couple weeks ago when they couldn't hit nothing. And then the Clippers game, I watched that on repeat. When they're shooting 25% from the field, it's going to be a wrap. They're not going to win those games. You know
It's
what I mean?
25% specifically from three.
Yes.
They have to shoot no less than somewhere between 38 and 40%. If they shoot
Right.
less than 38%,
Yeah.
they're done. They just can't. 31%, 30%, 20 something percent. I forget it. They just,
Yeah, they're not going to win.
when those shots don't go in, they don't got it.
Yeah, but that can be said for any team too. So when they're not hitting their shots, but the Celtics have to the last kink in their armor is they have to figure out how to score when they're shooting from the outside is not going in. They have to stop pounding the rock more on the inside and continue to drive the basket. That's what they have to do. But Joe Mazzulla, he's not talking to them about doing that. He's not talking to them saying, "Hey, your shots are not dropping." He's telling them just to keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. Which the part that still drives me nuts.
That's driving me nuts because,
Yeah.
like I said, that one game a few weeks ago when Pritchard was ice cold, they kicked it to him 3 times in a row, and I'm like, dude, you gave him, you missed, you got the offensive rebound, kicked it back out to him, you missed again. You get it again. Don't kick it to him again. Just do something different. You can't. That's 3 strikes and you're out. And you know something? You're right. And I don't get this, but they're not the only team that drives it and kicks it out. A guy last night, I don't know who it was, I forget, but he was like underneath the basket, and all he had to do was like lay it up and in, and he kicked it out. And I'm like, dude, you were right there. I'm like, what are you doing?
You must have been watching the Golden State game against Philadelphia. So
no, I was watching. There was a Celtics game last night. Some guy in Indiana had the ball under the hoop. He got a rebound or whatever he did, and he had it. All he had to do was lay it in. He didn't do it. He kicked it out to the guy.
Well, I saw that happen like 5 times in the Golden State game. I had the Golden State game playing in the background. Every time I looked up, Golden State was driving to the basket and kicking it out, and they were taking threes like all day. They were shooting threes, and they ended up winning. The league has turned into a 3-point shooting contest because that's just what we're looking at. But if you had to sit down right now and you had to look at the Celtics overall, and you had to say, hey, how good is this team? How bad is this team? Where is this team at going into the All-Star break? How are you feeling? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Steve. I've said this before several times. I think this team is better than the 2006, 2000, or the 2007, 2008. That the team when they first brought in Ray Allen, and then they brought in KG, they joined Paul Pierce, and they brought in a couple other guys to come in and create a team that won the NBA championship. I think this team right now is better than that team. But the only way I'll be proven right or wrong is if the Celtics win the championship. But if I had to guess, I think this team is, and I think the hidden guy, or maybe guys, the 2 guys are the 2 guys that we picked up in the offseason with Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday. And that happened to combine with us turning around the corner with Derek White's confidence. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at with the Celtics right now. Your thoughts?
I agree. They're the best team, in my opinion, and they should win it. I think that one of the things I noticed yesterday, and I think they did it against New Orleans too, they do have the ability to turn it up defensively when they want.
Right.
And I get it. In a whole game, you can't expect them to have that same defensive intensity. But when it matters, when it's in the last quarter or the last 5 minutes, I mean, Jason Tatum, 2 blocks in the last 30 seconds. Derek White, a block with 3 seconds left. I mean, those and other plays too. Holiday made a play. Derek White made some plays. Porzingis made a play here and there. So, but I think that they have the ability to turn that on, and that's going to be key for them if the threes don't go in a game where they got to have a win and the shots aren't going down. They're definitely going to need that defensive, whatever it is, presence or just to step up and make those plays in the game when it matters. So, listen, they have all the ingredients. I mean, there's only one thing I think is probably missing. They need another guy, and I thought that Mikhailiuk guy was going to be the guy. What do you think about them possibly trying to bring Gallinari back and dump that guy off, just to have an extra veteran, proven winner piece that can maybe make some shots when they need them?
Bring back who? Who'd you say?
Gallinari.
Yeah, I don't know about bringing in Gallinari. I don't know about that. This is if it was up to me, and I had the players' exemption, I would go after that shooter kid from, I think he's on Milwaukee right now. He used to play for Duke. I would go after him.
But how are you going to do that? They probably wouldn't trade with you.
No, no, they're trying to. He's on the chopping block.
He's on
There's
the
several,
block.
yeah, there's several players right now that are high profile. But here's the thing about basketball: when you bring in somebody who has somewhat of a look at Malcolm Brogdon, prime example. You bring him in. You don't want that person to get disgruntled because they're not getting the same amount of playing time as they would be getting beforehand. So that's an issue that you have to be concerned about because whoever's coming in, the Celtics want somebody who can score, who could be on the wing as a presence as the wing, and could also drive the basket. Or they also want a big man. They might make a play for two players. You know what I mean? Because Porzingis is having obviously issues with and then they're worried about Al Horford. They're really be worried about those two guys because the season's a long season, and they don't. They're paranoid about injury.
But I think they've been managing those guys correctly. I mean,
they have
Al Horford played one game, then took a game off, and I
they've
find
been
that he's been defensively, like some of the
But
plays he's making.
here's the situation. You got to get that type of player who's going to be willing to come in. And if he comes in and he's good enough, he's going to knock back some of the rotation. And some of these guys be disgruntled? That's my only issue with whoever you bring in, because if it creates some kind of people being disgruntled in the locker room. And Steve, you know what? I'm going to go on the record right now and say I don't think the Celtics should do anything like this. I was thinking about it over the weekend when I had spare time. I literally think the team is good enough right now because Keita, this kid Keita they got, the kid from Portugal and everything.
I like him.
I like him too, and they didn't know what they had. He turned out to be better, and he's getting better as they play him more. You know what I mean? As the season goes, his confidence level will be sky high by the time the playoffs are. So why disrupt what they have right now? They already have a damn near close to a perfect.
Isn't he like 7 feet tall too?
Yes, he is.
So he could. Is it possible he could steal Cornette's minutes and like elevate? And so he could be like an X factor later on.
He could. But when the playoffs come, the playoffs usually shrink. Coaches usually shrink there. Yeah. The problem, the question is, will Joe Mazzulla shrink the lineup when the playoffs come in? Excuse me, or will he say, you know what, we're not going to shrink the lineup. We're gonna play with what we played with throughout the entire season. That's what we're going to do. Will he do that? And that's one of the things we have to figure out. You know what I mean? So.
Well, right. they got to shrink they got to shrink it because you can't do like Dan Campbell and just do the same crap you did in the regular season. Or you're gonna be bounced out. I mean, you gotta adjust.
All right, last question to you, Steve, and then we're gonna move on because I'm looking at the time. Last question to you. The Celtics have been playing great ball. This time last year, if you recall, the Celtics were lousy at home and they were good on the road. This year, the Celtics are amazing at home, only had 2 losses, and they're really good on the road. Which one of those things do you think the whole thing is going to be consistent throughout the year? Because now we're coming into the halfway point with the obviously the All-Star game, or do you think the Celtics is going to reel that head of blowing big leads, end up blowing games? Because I said to my friend Kev today, I said, last year the game that they had last night, they would have lost that game this time last year. Get a big lead and then lose the game when the team comes back. They 90% of the time. I think it was like 15, 20 games that happened to them last year, and they lost those games. You know what I mean? And they were at home. That's the scary part about it.
That was pissing me off a lot.
Yeah, a lot. What do you think? You've watched a couple of games. You hear people talking about the Celtics. What's your thoughts on that part?
I think that the home court should be a huge advantage for them, and they should just feel like, hey, this is our house, and you're not coming in here and you're not beating us. I mean, the 20-2 or 21-2, whatever they are. That should continue, and I agree with you. Like, I scream at the TV the same way I scream at the Bruins when they can't get the puck out of their own end. They had a 20-point lead yesterday. I'm like, where the hell did it go? Why does it? You scored 81 points in the first half. You had a 20-point lead. You shouldn't lose,
right?
And they didn't. But it shouldn't. But it also shouldn't be that close. That's what's frustrating me about the NBA in general. It isn't just a Celtics issue, and I think Larry Whalen was on. One time when you weren't here, and that's what he was telling me. It's like, it's not just them. It's that's the way the league is. Everybody blows a 20-point lead. That's insane to me. That just doesn't make sense. And what aggravates me even more is Joe Mazzulla will wait until they're actually losing and let them figure it out before he actually does anything and calls a timeout. I'm like, you can't.
You're old.
You
You're
can't do that.
getting old. You Steve, you're getting old because
I don't care about being the old factor. Listen, the whole this whole new analytics nonsense. This is another rant I'm going to have somewhere else along the line. But the analytic nonsense, that's driving me away from these games too. That's making me nuts. You shouldn't lose a 20-point lead. You shouldn't lose a game.
Hold on, time out.
Hang on to the lead and win the game. Put your foot on the gas and kill them.
Steve, time out. The reason why I wanted to stop you when you were on that rant is because the game has changed. Whereas, when we were in the 80s and in the 90s or some part of the 90s, if you got up by 20, you will get almost guaranteed to win that game. Mm-hmm. But the reason why it's changed now is because people are taking so many threes now and they're coming back. So the game has changed, and you can be up by 40 and the team can still come back on.
It's the runs. That's what Larry was telling me.
It is.
It's the runs. It's a 33-11 run the Celtics had against New Orleans.
It's
20-0.
It's the runs with the threes because you're hitting threes and you're coming back. So the game has changed dramatically. Not to mention more guys taking more threes, more guys hitting more threes. You know what I mean? When Chris Ford used to hit a three, it was remarkable because not too many guys were hitting threes on that clip. And Larry was hitting them too. You know what I mean? That's why they were winning. Now the Celtics team in 2024 right now, anybody who comes off that bench right now can hit a three. Any of them. Back in the day, one guy came in, you knew this guy could rebound, this guy could shoot, this guy could block. It's not like that anymore. Anyway, let's move on because we're looking at the time and I want to squeeze in all these different topics. So let's talk about the Boston Bruins. And before we dive into the Bruins, let's talk about this thing we were talking about right before on air because I want to get into the Bruins news too. But Steve, tell everybody out there about this news that happened with some NHL players and sexual assault. I want to tap on this real fast.
All right. So just recently, probably in the last week, 5 players from the 2018 Canadian World Junior team were charged with sexual assault. They are a couple of them guys are like starters. Like the goalie in Philadelphia is like their starting goalie is one of the guys that was charged. Took a leave of absence from the team. All these guys, there's 5 of them. They all took a leave of absence from their teams. And so, this is kind of, it's similar to other sports. And it's similar to, I think there was a guy in baseball that had the same thing kind of happen.
Trevor Bauer.
Listen, this is serious stuff here. And, they have to deal with it. And there were charges filed against them. And most of those guys, I think, pled not guilty. And so, listen, 5 years can go by and you think everything's all, it's fine. And then it's not. And, without knowing any of the particulars, because I just literally was reading it as we were talking. I'm going to have to do some more digging. But it's pretty serious when, the World Hockey Association or World Junior Association or whatever that is, they have to deal with this now. And, it's a black eye. It's a black eye for those kids. It's going to be a black eye for kids on future teams that, listen, you got to watch your P's and Q's. This is not anything to mess around with. And it's.
Okay. But let me just touch on this real fast. Trevor Bauer had the same type of situation. He was excused from the LA Dodgers, and it was a he said, she said type of thing. Come to find out, here's the scary part, guys. Come to find out, she was lying. You know what I mean? They had testimony and everything else. They came up with some proof that she was trying to extort him, and everything else came up that. In this situation, there are similarities, but I'm thinking that the NHL and the World Hockey Association saw some things that were probably scary to them and that might come out. So they jumped on it real quick and excused these 4 guys from the team. Now, the scary situation obviously is that they made a move before it really hit the news on how deep all this stuff really is. So what is going on with these sexual assault cases and these athletes? Because I'll be honest with you, Steve, when I saw how the hockey addressed this, it was different than how baseball has addressed it. It was different than how basketball, definitely different than how football. You know what I mean? Like certain leagues are handling these things different. and there's no universal way that these things are happening with he said versus she said situations, and it's messing up. Look, like the team you just mentioned, that is going to affect the entire organization because these are some star players. Give me your thoughts on this whole thing, Steve.
Well, I think that, and we talked about this before with some of the other issues that were going on, maybe specifically Milan Lucic. Like,
Right.
look, there, everything is backwards now. Everybody is, it's instead of guilty until proven innocent, it's automatically guilty. Like everybody's guilty right away, and so everybody's lives have to get ruined. And then in Trevor Bauer's case, it comes out that she was lying, and not to cross sports with movies or whatever. But what's that dude's name? Smollett there found out he was lying too, right? And so these people are lying, and they're kind of getting away with it for a little while, but the league feels like they have to take action, right? Because they don't want a black eye, and they want to make sure that if it's true that the alleged victims or the alleged guys that did it, so to speak, like they got to clear everybody out. They got to. Go ahead. It's damage control, I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and the Celtics did the same thing, and it affected their organization too with
Udoka last year, right?
Yeah. That could have affected, and I think it really did affect it because the Celtics would have went to the finals if Ime was still coaching. You know what I mean? Last year, now you get Ime out because of he said she said situation. Ime gets out, you get a new coach, doesn't know the team, doesn't know how to coach. The Celtics make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, lose Game 7 to Miami. Again, a sexual assault situation. I mean, you could pick certain things in every single sport. So I wanted to bring this up because now it's rearing its ugly head again. And how do you think it's going to affect, baseball? And I mean, the NHL moving forward since they got 4 players out, of their team.
Well, I think the main thing is that they definitely take the allegations seriously.
Right.
Regardless of whether the person is lying or not, because they don't know that. Right. So that comes out, and they're like, okay, we got to do something, and we got to do the right thing, and we can't screw around, and it's damage control, and it's a public image, and blah blah. So that's probably first, right? They got to cover their butts and make sure that they remove these guys, so that they're not a complete distraction to the team, even though it's in the headlines, and they'll have a court date, but. It's all in how the teams handle it, and I'll just use the Bruins because now this is the second year in a row that they've had some type of an issue, and they've handled it fine, so it hasn't really ruined them. I agree with you in the Celtics case; it might have hurt them with the Udoka situation, but it all depends on how they handle it. And so these teams here, like, that means that maybe for the World Juniors, they handle things differently now. When they go to a hotel or when they do travel or whatever it is, they bed check the guys for sure. They make sure there's no shenanigans. Like they have to get like really strict now with what these guys can and can't do. And so maybe that's part of it. But I think that the thing that, and I'm going to circle back to this again, is that everybody's guilty now instead of being innocent until proven. It should be innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Yeah, there's allegations. Okay, take it serious. Let it go, play out, and then if it comes out later they were lying, then that's wrong too. Like they should listen. If they lied, whoever the woman was that lied in the Trevor Bauer case, whatever punishment he was going to get, she should get that. If he got fined $3 million, and I'm just picking numbers because I don't know, right? But if he got fined $3 million, guess what? Reverse it. She gets a $3 million fine. Or if he has to do community service for 60 days, guess what? You got to do community service for 60 days. That's how the punishment. The thing is, they're settling with these people, and the punishments aren't fitting the crime. And so Trevor Story lost 2 years of baseball. And what did this lady lose? For lying.
Trevor Bauer.
That's what I know. Who did I say? Trevor Lawrence?
Story,
Lawrence, Bowers. Sorry.
Trevor Bauer lost once he got excused from the team, he lost his paycheck. He wasn't and he was earning millions. He lost his paycheck for the rest of the year. But anyway, let's move on. We got to talk about the Bruins because the Bruins are on a hot streak, right? The Bruins are doing good. The Bruins' best overall record. I want to hear you say that, Steve.
All right, so listen, I have no problem saying when I'm I mean when I like the Fonz when I'm wrong. Right? I did say that they were going to be in the 8th or 9th spot for a playoff spot. Right? And so I'm shocked. They're 31-9-9. I didn't see that coming. And I didn't have a chance to look, but I am going to, now that it's the All-Star break, and find out what the predictions were before the season from like the Hockey News and some of the other publications, because I can guarantee you nobody thought they were going to be in first place. I'd be surprised to find one source that said, oh, they're going to be fine. No, they'll be in first place. That's not what I was hearing
Bruins
before.
are in first place right now. They're in first place.
They're in first place. They are tied with Vancouver for the best record overall in the league.
Somebody was it Denise? who picked the Bruins is going to be in the first place of this? Was it Denise? It was somebody.
It might have been her,
yeah. It might have been. I didn't think they were going to be last, but I didn't think they were going to be first either. So talk about their win, Steve. Talk to everybody. Talk. Now the negative net just sapped out of you. Now you don't have much to say. You're cracking.
Listen. They still have a need. I will say it's not perfect, right? But I think that they've done a good job. I think Montgomery's done a good job. He's finally figuring out who belongs with who, as far as matching up the lines and so forth. I do think that they, on defense, we talked about this already. I'm going to keep talking about it until they maybe do it. They need a big physical defenseman that can clear out the front of the net. Not specifically the size of Chara, because that doesn't really exist, but they need a guy that's 6'4", 6'5", in front of the net that weighs like 240 pounds or whatever. And when there's a guy in the crease whacking away at the goal, you're going to take him and just shove him out of the way. They get pushed around too much, and I don't like it. I know Lucic was supposed to be the muscle. They need some muscle. They can't expect Trent Frederick and Lauko to be the muscle when the playoffs come around, because things are going to tighten up and they're going to need net front presence. So that's what I want to see from them. Otherwise, I mean, it's really hard to knock what they've been doing. I mean, they've had a good year. I mean, to be in first place, I didn't see it coming. So, kudos to them.
Are they that scrappy team that I was thinking that they were? Because honestly, I looked at them a couple of times and I was like, geez, these guys look scrappy to me. But I don't know what scrappy.
Early in the year, they were not. Now, I would say over the last probably 20 or so games, probably since around mid-December. Like, remember when I was screaming because they kept giving up a goal at the end of the period?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they've cleaned a lot of that up, and I would say probably since about that point on, they're fighting and they're winning the one-on-one battles. The puck support's better. They still have issues in their own end getting the puck out, but I think it's better from a scrappy standpoint. I'll say that. But I still think they need some muscle. So it's better. I agree with you. The scrappiness is better. It's what we want to see. It's what we expect from the Bruins. And so they've done a much better job. They just have to stay healthy. Jake DeBrusk went down with an injury. I don't know what happened to him, but if they can stay healthy and keep scrapping, they can still finish the year with a good year. I mean, look, we talked before, and you said if they didn't make the playoffs, what would happen? They'd have to fall off a cliff right now with 33 games left, and they'd have to win like 5 of their last 33 and not make the playoffs, and that'd be ridiculous. So I don't expect that. Even if they don't finish in first place and they're still solid, it's all what they do in April. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Got to get past the first round. I'm still going to say it. I have to see them still get past the first round, and then we'll talk.
How much of it is coaching?
I told you before. I think it's like 80 to 85% Montgomery and like 15-20% Don Sweeney, because like I said, last year he went from filet mignon to this year chicken salad, and Jim Montgomery's got to take the chicken salad and make it better than chicken salad, and he's done that. So he's done a good job. I think he's done a good job.
Okay. All right. So time is not our friend right now. So let's move on to the.
So let me throw this out real quick too. A lot of places have like a lot of publications and whatnot will have like midterm grades for these guys. I did somewhat do a grade system, and I think I'm going to post the grades for everybody, right, for the team. So like To me, if you're asking me who the MVP of the Bruins is right now, I'll say Jeremy Swayman, A+. He's been rock solid all year, and so on and so forth. So I'm actually going to take these grades I made, and I'm going to post it, and then people can chime in, and they can tell me I'm a goof or whatever. But they're off for a week
Being
now.
that you're negative, Ned, I'm sure people won't agree. So
there's going to be some negative ones in there, and I'm sure people are going to be like, "What? You gave that guy a D? What are you talking about?" So
yeah,
I expect some of that.
Like I was about to say, let's talk about the Boston Red Sox real fast.
Do we
The
have
Red
to?
Sox right now are making news only because the funny thing is when I saw a newsflash item that the Baltimore Orioles right now are in the process. The ownership has all agreed to sell the team at the valuation of $1.3 billion. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I wonder how much this will affect the Boston Red Sox, because at the end of the day, I think the Red Sox are moving forward with, just having said it to us or the general public. I think they're trying to put the team up for sale also. I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think they're trying to keep the valuation of the team pretty high, because now Baltimore set the market. You know what I mean? If Baltimore Orioles is going to be at 1.3 billion, how much are the Red Sox worth, and will the ownership sell them? Because it all signs, even though we complain about the Red Sox and everything else, and we heard what the ownership said a couple of weeks ago, Steve, I am of the mind right now, after I've been reading some articles and diving in a little bit heavier to the Red Sox, I'm of the mind that the Red Sox are putting together a great case for them to sell the team at next offseason. That's what I'm thinking they're doing. I'm really thinking so.
Well, we've been calling for John Henry to sell the team because he's not investing in it. And that's a good point.
Right.
And maybe that's the plan. We just don't know it. And I heard something on the radio that they're worth $4.5 billion. So
How much?
$4.5 billion.
Well, that's probably means.
So that's probably why
Yeah.
they're not spending the way they are. And like I told you, when you're investing money in other things,
right.
And I'm not trying to steal your thunder or cut you off, but that Fenway Sports Group, where he's got the Pittsburgh Penguins and he's got the racing and he's got this and that. The Red Sox are in that umbrella whether they deny it or not. And so they have to not add too much debt if they're trying to secure loans for other business ventures. That's my takeaway on it. And I don't care if Sam Kennedy comes on a million times and says that they're not, but that's exactly the way I feel about it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you could say whatever you want to say, but we're looking at your track record of what you're doing. Your actions is leading me to believe that you wanted evaluation to find out. The ownership was probably already knew the Baltimore Orioles group, because all the owners talk. They probably knew for a year that Baltimore was getting ready to go up for sale, and they're doing everything. And this is a long-term plan. They sat there and said, let's wait until Baltimore gets all the agreements together to put up the sale, because we know whatever the Baltimore is going to be, ours is going to be more, and we're going to double of what we spent. You know what I mean?
Double,
triple. There you go. So
listen, I'm still pissed off at Sam Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that guy came out and called us liars.
Yeah.
Right. Flat said on TV, if you think we're not serious about winning, you are lying, and I'm going to call you out on your BS. Well, I posted it, and I'll say it live right now. Bring it, jabroni. Because let me tell you something. You don't get to call us liars when you guys are the ones that are lying. Like, you're not using the Jedi mind trick nonsense on me. It ain't going to work. And it's not going to work for most Red Sox fans around here, where you guys are buying golf instead of buying me an outfielder or a pitcher. Like, I'm not buying the BS. You can't do that. You can't.
You let Turner go to Toronto.
Toronto. How about that? I mean, that guy. You couldn't find a way to squeeze that guy in. Give me a break. And now, listen. I don't know if you know this, but the coach for Liverpool, the soccer team coach or manager, whatever he is resigning at the end of the year. 56 years old. He has 2 years left on his contract. He says, "I don't feel I have the energy to continue coaching." You know why? The writing's on the wall. He probably was told, just like Cora, hey, we're not spending money. You're not going to get all the top players, and you're not going to have help for your coaching staff, and blah, blah, blah. So he's like, F this. I'm not dealing with this. You're going to penny pinch me? I'm killing myself. Nope, not having it. And so, listen, Alex Cora, and how about Breslow? That poor guy, I keep calling him Chaim Breslow. It's really not his fault.
Right.
He was probably lied to take the job because they couldn't get anybody else. They probably told him, yeah, we're going to sign, pitchers, and you can sign this guy, you can get that. And then they were like, no. They pulled the wool over his eyes and said, no, this is how it really is. Because what did he say in November? We need one, maybe two bona fide starters. Notice how quick he backtracked that. Mm-hmm. So him, Cora, Werner, those guys are all covering for John Henry because he doesn't want to spend money. And he's not spending the money because he's investing it in the Fenway Sports Group. And don't sit there and tell me that it's separate. You can't tell me it's separate if you're not spending money up to the luxury tax. You have your team's worth $4.5 billion and you're not spending money. Don't sit there and lie. That's a bold-faced, flat lie. And I'm calling you out, Sam. Bring it.
Well, at the end of the day, I would like to, disagree with you, but because of everything you said, I agreed with. I can't because I'm looking at the writing on the wall. And
Frank, Jordan Montgomery's in Boston because his wife's working here, and the guy's here, and you don't want to sign him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's a reason to sign him, but there's no reason not to. The reason is you're penny pinching, and I have a feeling that the penny pinching is because of their investments in the other things inside that group. So they're all tied together, and I'm not buying it. You can put it this way: if you do nothing else, nobody, you couldn't get Turner for $13 million, and come out and tell us at the stupid winter thing last week, the winter weekend, that the payroll is probably going to be less than last year. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
You jack up the seat, you jack up the tickets, and you go and tell us the payroll is going to be less, and then they signed some gag today. Another building 19 good stuff cheap. They claimed infielder, outfielder Romy Gonzalez off waivers from the White Sox.
Well,
that guy played 5 positions. He had 46 starts at second base, 7 in right field, 4 at shortstop, 3 at third, and 3 in right field. So he's supposed to be like the Brock Holt jack of all trades guy coming in here. Now maybe they're not 100% sure of the guy that they traded with Atlanta for Chris Sale, that he's going to be the starting second baseman. But it's early for that. But that's what that tells me. And they also signed some 29-year-old former San Francisco pitching prospect who has a 102-mile-an-hour sinker. Last year, want to take a guess what his ERA was last year?
What?
7.43. The dumpster diving continues, Frank. Doesn't matter if it's Chaim Bloom, Chaim Breslow, Craig Breslow. Doesn't matter.
Well, let's go on the record right now, because I think the Red Sox are going to have a worse record next year than they did this year.
They might not get 78 wins. Tom Warner, how the analytics feed this nonsense? Tom Warner came out last week and said the analytics people told him that if the Red Sox had played better defense, they would have had 8 or 9 more wins.
Yeah.
So that's what you're holding your hat on, is that we played better defense. Well, guess what? If you had Xander Bogaerts at shortstop, you'd have played better defense. You didn't have Kiki Hernandez and Pablo Reyes and Brian Dahlback trying to play Justin Turner playing second base. I mean, listen, you shot yourself in the foot. You did it to yourself. You can't sit there and say, if we had 8 or 9 wins defensively. You didn't put anybody there to play defense. That's part of the problem.
All right, so look at the time. We got to move on because we could, Negative Ned could be on his rant for another 3 more minutes. But it's time to move on to the weekly poll. So give me the weekly poll.
The weekly poll is, what should the Patriots do with the 3rd overall pick in the draft? The choices were draft a quarterback, 44% draft a wide receiver, 56% trade back 0. Nobody wants to trade back. But most people agree with you. They want the wide receiver. So let's see what happens. I mean, they have a chance to get a really good player, and hopefully they don't get Ken Sims 2.0, because that would be a freaking nightmare and a half.
Or N'Keal Harry 2.0, So
that too.
Yeah, but all right. With that being said, now it's time to move on to our favorite part, where we go back and forth with the next week's predictions. And what were last week's predictions? Because I think I did an offer. I went over.
Well, I think a couple of these, the jury's still out. So mine, Josh McDaniels is back as the offensive coordinator, which means Mac Jones is staying. That's still up in the air. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to remove it until they actually hire an offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And then we had the Super Bowl picks. I had Baltimore beating Kansas City and San Francisco beating Baltimore. So I had Baltimore and San Francisco in the Super Bowl, and because Baltimore gagged and they choked, they
I
didn't
think
make it.
I had Baltimore and Detroit.
You had Baltimore and Detroit, so I have yours here. You said the Patriots would pick up Jacoby Brissett, and you said that Baltimore would beat KC and Detroit would beat San Francisco because Brock Purdy too many interceptions. The 3 dropped INTs Green Bay should have had.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Baltimore and Detroit in the Super Bowl. So we had not a very good week.
All right, so
Not a very good week.
now we know the Super Bowl is set. We know it's Kansas City versus San Francisco. It's a rematch of a couple of years ago. What is your take right? I'm gonna tell you right now. My mind is telling me that Kansas City is gonna kill him. My mind is telling me. My mind is telling me that it's not even gonna be close. And then I saw San Francisco should have lost that game. They should have lost the week before against Green Bay. You know what I mean? They should have lost the last 3 weeks.
They were losing 27-14 or whatever.
Yeah, they're
or 24-10 or something like.
Their luck's going to run out. I think it's going to run out in the Super Bowl. I don't think that they're going to, even though I think on paper they probably look like the better team, but you're going up against the Wizard. You know what I mean? So
I'll put it this way: I want San Francisco to win, but I don't know if they get the job done. I think that it's too difficult. And I say it, and I'm going to keep saying it: to be the man, you got to beat the man, and you have to beat KC, and you have to beat Mahomes and Andy Reid, and it's a tall order.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I definitely want San Francisco to win because I don't want to hear. I'm tired of hearing Patrick Mahomes is as good as or the best QB in football right now. And
listen, we did the same thing with Tom Brady after he won the first 3 out of 4 about comparing him to Montana.
No, we did not. I did not.
We had some of that. Sports radio had it all.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I'm just saying.
Not us. I'm just saying in general. The talk will continue.
But when Tom Brady ended up going to 9 Super Bowls and then 10 Super Bowls, and you know what I mean.
So they're prematurely putting the talk out there. And listen, they do it for ratings. I watched a clip yesterday where it was Stephen A. Smith with Molly Quirm, whatever her name is, and Shannon Sharp was on there. And she's like, "You guys are disrespecting Tom Brady." She's like, "Are you kidding me?" So listen, that talk is never going to go away. This is like Michael Jordan versus LeBron. It's Bobby Orr versus Gretzky. I will say this, and I've heard this, and you can see it, is the Kansas City, the way that they're playing, it's just like the Patriots early on, where they would find different ways to win. They could win 32-29, or they could win 17-10. And so Kansas City's built the same way. They have the best QB, and their defense is dialing it up. And Steve Spagnuolo doesn't get enough credit for having Kansas City in the positions that they're in with these Super Bowl wins and playoff run, because every year in the regular season, Kansas City's defense is terrible, but by the time playoffs come in, he's got it dialed in. Mm-hmm. So you have to tip your cap to him. Look, I don't. Everybody's scared they're going to catch the Patriots, and I don't want to see them catch the Patriots either. But you have to give credit where credit is due. And so I want San Francisco, but I don't know if they can get the job done.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. All right, so you got officially you're going to go on paper saying San Francisco?
I'm going to pick San Francisco just because something. At some point, I feel like Kyle Shanahan has to break through. He's cursed.
Yeah.
He was on the Atlanta team that lost. He was on the Super Bowl team 4 years ago that lost. I mean, and he's a good coach. I mean, I think that for him to have, how many different quarterbacks has he had?
A lot.
And they've been to 4 NFC Championship games in 5 years. So he's done a good job. He just needs that breakthrough. Hopefully he can get it this year.
Yeah, he had a lot of quarterbacks. Yeah, he did. He had a lot of quarterbacks. All right. So do you have a crazy prediction for the week?
I got to do a better job of getting these out. I got to do a better job of getting these on paper before the show. I'm stuck. Why don't you go? I'll think of something.
All right. My crazy prediction is going to be simple. I think the Patriots are going to hire an offensive coordinator that we didn't see coming at all. I think, and I don't know who that guy is going to be. I just think it's going to be somebody from somewhere that that's the only thing I could go out on a limb and say. I think that's where their heads are going to be at. Somebody that we weren't paying attention to. Somebody that is completely obscure out there, and I also think the Patriots are going to keep Troy Brown. I think they're going to keep him around. So that's my 1A, 1 and 1B. My 1 and 2 picks.
I'm going to kind of sort of steal your thunder.
Okay.
I'm going to say after the PGA golf thing goes through, John Henry decides to sell the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah, okay. There it is. All right, y'all. We getting ready to roll up out of here. Thank you for watching the show. Steve, do you want to take us home and tell anybody anything, or how you want to do it? Yeah,
hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week.
And next week I'm gonna have some coffee. I'll get some energy.
You need one of those, like, you know, those helmets they have with the beer cans in it. You just replace them with coffee, Dunkin' Donuts, or Starbucks, whatever you like. I like Dunkin' Donuts.
There it is.
You can have like a drip.
I'm gonna do that. Something. Something. All right, you guys. Thanks for watching. This is again Boston Straight Shooters, where we talk about the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins, and the Patriots. We'll be back next week and do a recap of everything that's going on. That's Steve. I'm Frank. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you, everybody.